Hello my crafty friends, Laura Rumble here with a layout for StickerKitten. It's a bit of a long one for me because it's a bit involved, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I'm starting off with a piece of 9x12 watercolour paper and the two new stamp sets from the Celestial and the Space Dogs range by StickerKitten. I'm on the StickerKitten design team, so this is an ad, and I have to make you aware of that according to British law. So, welcome to my advertising, as Shema would say. I'm going to perform a little bit of stamp surgery. I'm not cutting through any of the stamping part of the stamp. I'm simply cutting in the dead space between bits of the stamp, and I'm separating one cluster of stars into two clusters of stars, and I've snipped a cluster of stars off of a sentiment. I have not damaged the stamps in any way. You can always put them back together how they were meant to go, but this for me is more usable because I can have stars and twinkles all around my page, or just as little accents on cards, without having either a big sentiment or a big cluster. So I hope I haven't freaked you out by cutting my stamps apart, but it's worth it for me. I'm going to go back in and add more of the twinkles and the stars, and I think I probably add another planet as well. I have used my WOW embossing pad and some silver embossing powder, also from WOW, and I've heat set. You missed that bit because I didn't record it, sorry. I'm using plastic, either the packaging or from the back of the stamp set, to protect my paper because I had not cleaned off my stamps in between stamping and moving them. And when you're heat embossing, you do not want any stray ink, especially sticky ink, because the embossing powder will cling to it like its life depends on it. I do have a few stray bits and I'm cleaning them up with a paintbrush. I guess, really, for the technique that I'm going to do over the top, it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference if I had a few extra silver specks. But I still cleaned up. I'm going back in with my plastic so that I can place just a few more stars and twinkles around the page. I don't think you can ever have too many stars, really. They're a very usable motif, or shape I should say, probably, for me anyway. I could use stars on most things. So a bit more anti-static powder and ink those up, cover those in powder and melt them. So I have basically a scene from space. I've got the Earth, I've got the Moon, I've got planets, I've got a rocket, I have got stars and twinkly bits. And I'm going to paint a galaxy. I've had this layout in my head for quite a while, and I wasn't really sure how to go about it, because you've got to trust the process. Because what I'm going to do is haphazardly add colour all over the sky, and it is going to look an awful mess. And you may well be looking at this thinking, how on earth is this going to look like a decent layout? And I was thinking that too. I have watched people paint galaxies, and the message is trust the process. So I'm going ahead, I'm pushing on, even though it looks absolutely awful. I'm letting that first wash of bright colour dry, and I'm going to paint in my planets and my rocket and my moon. I was going to paint the stars, but they're too tiny really, so I just ignore them for now, and at a later stage I go in with a white gel pen and make them white. I did try to avoid getting colour in them. It turns out I needn't have bothered painting around them and trying to be careful because it didn't matter in the end. I'm going to pop on a little bit of music and come back when there is a bit more to say. Now moving on to the first layer of black paint. And I say black, I don't actually have a black, so I've mixed my own. In watercolour you add a red, a blue and a yellow in a very concentrated form, and you will get black. You'll probably need to mess around with the combination for quite a while, which is why I've mixed a great big pot, so that I don't have to try and mix it again. And it does take a bit of adjusting, but if you use the darkest shades that you have and mix them together, you should eventually get black. I am carefully going around all of the shapes that I've embossed with a first coat of black and sort of blending it out a bit. Again, it looks a hot mess. Just trust the process, carry on. I've actually stuck the sheet to my desk at this point because it was beginning to curl and warp, which is it's one way of doing it. I don't recommend it. I recommend getting a board that you can tape your paper to counteract the warping. I don't have a board big enough, so I just taped it to my desk. I am now applying some masks. Now this is Frisket film, and I've roughly cut out the shapes of the planets, and I'm going to flicker over the top. Flick, splatter. One of the two. I'm using a paintbrush, I use a toothbrush, I use a stippling brush, and I'm adding black, some more concentrated, some less concentrated. I'm adding a bit of purple, I'm adding some shimmery black, that's a Shimmer's paint. So far all the watercolours I've been using have been Daniel Smith. I'm adding a silvery-ish Shimmer's paint as well, and that has got a lot of sparkle to it. I'm adding some white acrylic ink, and then I've mixed a tiny dot of yellow in with the white acrylic ink to make a pale yellow, and splattered that all over as well. And I'm going to remove my masks, and I think it looks pretty good. You could carry on adding more black to deepen up some of the areas. I like more of the colour showing through. I'm just going to touch up a few of the bits that I got the wrong colour in the wrong place. Add a little bit of shading to the moon. Add a bit more paint to cover up a boo-boo on the fire coming from the rocket. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out. I'm going to use a cotton bud, wet, just with a little bit of clear water, to clean up the embossing powder. On the larger sentiments, I didn't cut masks to cover the words, so they got all of the stars on top of them. It's easy to wipe off with a cotton bud and get that silver embossing powder back to its shiny state. So I'm adding my photo. I have backed it onto a piece of non-shed glitter cardstock, and I have cut around the "you're out of this world" sentiment and I've tucked the photo in behind that. And I'm going to add some sequins. I'm very excited about them. You can't see them very well. These are glow-in-the-dark stars. Much like a 4-year-old with glow-in-the-dark things, I am obsessed. I'm going to use my Sticks 2 pencil to place my sequins in place. It's not a pencil. I don't know what kind of lead it has. I find if I warm up the tip a little bit, it picks things up better than if it was slightly colder, and it just easily picks up your sequins and you can place them down. So there's a picture of the glowing stars taken in the wardrobe, and there is the finished layout in daylight. This was a really fun one to make. It was involved and it took a long time, but oh, I love it. It's brilliant. Such fun stamp sets. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!